I, 23-year-old female, have a twin named Angela. Angela had leukemia as a child. She has been cancer-free since we were 10 years old, thankfully. But since she was sick a lot as a child, I was basically invisible to our parents. Angela and I were still best friends at the time, but my parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, etc. basically forgot I existed during that time. They sent me to a boarding school from the age of 8 to 14. I understood that they had to send me away when Angela was undergoing treatment, and they didn't have the capacity to take care of me. But there was excuse after excuse about why I couldn't come home for 4 years after Angela was cancer-free. Eventually, they brought me back when I was 14, but I was very antisocial at that point and just stayed in my room all the time. I spoke to Angela here and there, but we weren't super close anymore because we had been separated for a while. Last night, I was at my parents' house with my boyfriend. My parents were showing my boyfriend the photo album of me and Angela as kids. I have some as a baby, but not much after around the age of 2. My boyfriend asked if there's another photo album because he wanted to see what I looked like as I was growing up. My mom said there aren't any more pictures of me, but he can just look at the pictures of Angela since we're identical, and that's the same thing. I got quite angry at this and said we're two separate people, and she should just say they weren't interested in taking photos of me when I was growing up because they had other things to worry about. But looking at Angela isn't a replacement for the pictures I don't have. My mom said I should have sent more pictures of myself when I was at the boarding school, so then she'd have stuff to show. I said, wow, one would think the responsibility of having pictures of a child growing up would be on the parents. When my boyfriend left, we had a bigger conversation about this. My mom said she felt like that earlier conversation showed that I resented her and my dad for that period of time where they were taking care of Angela. I admitted that I do kind of resent them for that, especially the part where they took 4 years to bring me back home after Angela wasn't sick anymore. My mom said their reasoning was that they felt like I was well settled there and having a good childhood, and they didn't want to disrupt my life by bringing me back. I was shocked to hear that and said, having a good childhood at a boarding school far from home? Are you delusional? My mom has been crying since, and my dad is angry that I made her upset over something that happened so long ago. He said that I won't understand how hard that was for them until I become a parent myself, and that I should apologize to my mom for talking to her like that. I admit my tone was harsh, but I don't think I said anything wrong. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Dad, I understand that you guys were going through a lot as parents, but you were adults with decades of experience. I was 8 years old, shipped away from my family, cut off from everyone I knew, and then not brought back as quickly as I could have been. You are asking me to put my experiences as a child into context as a parent. As a parent, don't you think you should have been thinking about how this felt to your child? I was 8 years old, and you are telling me that I should be able to go back and erase my feelings of being abandoned and marginalized. Yes, I know you had a lot to deal with, Angela, but did it ever occur to you that you had 2 kids? Comment 2. Definitely not the idiot. Your parents never took the time to ask you back then if you liked being at that school. How would they know about you being well settled in? They also didn't feel like they missed something of your life. Saying things like, look at the picture of our other daughter, it's basically the same, just shows how ignorant they are about your childhood. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I wanted to give you all an update on the situation with my family. After the big blowout with my parents, things were super tense. I left their house feeling pretty upset, and my boyfriend was shocked at how they treated me. He's always been supportive, and that night, he just held me while I let out all the frustration and sadness that had been building up for years. The next day, my dad called me. I was surprised because he's not the type to reach out first, especially after a fight. He said he wanted to talk, just the two of us. I agreed, and we met at a coffee shop the following morning. Sitting across from my dad, I could tell he was nervous. He's always been the strong, silent type, But that day, he was different. He started by apologizing for how they had treated me growing up. He admitted that they were so focused on Angela's illness that they didn't realize how much they were neglecting me. He said that sending me to boarding school was the hardest decision they ever made, but they thought it was best for me at the time. I listened, feeling a mix of anger and relief. It was the first time he had ever acknowledged that they might have made a mistake. He also shared something I never knew. He visited me at boarding school a few times when I was younger, but I was always in class or activities, so he never got to see me. He said he regretted not trying harder to be a part of my life then. We talked for hours, and I told him about how lonely I felt at boarding school, how I used to wait for them to visit or call, but it rarely happened. I told him about the nights I cried myself to sleep because I missed home so much. He was shocked. He had no idea I felt that way. The conversation was tough, but it felt like we were finally making progress. Before we left, he gave me a hug, something he hadn't done in years, and promised that things would be different from now on. When I got home, Angela was waiting for me. She had heard about the fight and wanted to check on me. We hadn't been super close since we were kids, but in that moment, it felt like we were best friends again. She apologized for the years we lost and promised to make it up to me. We spent the rest of the day together, just like old times, and it was amazing. The next surprise came from my mom. She showed up at my door with a box. Inside were all the letters and drawings I had sent from boarding school. She had kept every single one. She was crying as she told me she was sorry for not being there for me, for making me feel forgotten. She said she wanted to start over and make new memories together. I was overwhelmed. For so long, I had felt like my family didn't care about me, but now they were trying to make things right. It wasn't going to be easy to move past everything, but I was willing to try. The biggest shock came a few days later. My parents invited me and my boyfriend over for dinner. It was awkward at first, but as the night went on, we all started to relax. After dessert, my parents brought out an old photo album I had never seen before. It was full of pictures of me, from school events, birthdays, and holidays. They had been taking photos all along, even when I wasn't there. My mom explained that they wanted to have something to remember me by while I was away. They thought it would be too painful for me to see the album when I came back, so they kept it hidden. But now, they wanted me to have it. I couldn't believe it. All those years, I thought they didn't care enough to keep photos of me, but I was wrong. It was a lot to process, but it felt like a piece of my childhood had been given back to me. Things aren't perfect, but they're getting better. My family is making an effort to be a part of my life, and I'm learning to let go of the resentment I've held on to for so long. It's going to take time, but I'm hopeful for the future. The stepdaughter begs to move in, and I say no. She plays the victim, but her toxic lies unravel at my stepson's wedding. When I married my wife, she had 2 kids. Juana was 12 and Iago was 8. We had 2 of our own afterwards. Juana and Iago's dad, Juan, in my opinion, is not a good guy. He rarely paid child support, and he worked under the table a lot to lower the amount he should pay. One Christmas, he stayed with us so he could see the kids open gifts in the morning. He had the audacity to switch a label on a gift I got for Iago so it seemed like it came from him. I just swallowed the shitty behavior to not start a fight with the kids present. However, his kids love him. They can see no wrong in him. When Juana got married, he walked her down the aisle even though I paid for the wedding. I wasn't even acknowledged on the invitation. Once again, I didn't start anything because the wedding wasn't about me. When Juana had her first child, I was told in no uncertain terms that I was not going to be her kid's grandfather. I was just her mom's husband. Iago and I are friends. He is always polite with me, and we have bonded somewhat. After their mom died, he still came to see me, and we often share a meal. He has brought his fiancée to meet me, and he hand-delivered my invitation to make sure I knew he wanted me there. Since her mom's passing, Juana has not contacted me. The funeral was the last time I saw her or her kids. I thought Iago's wedding would be the next time I would see her. However, the economy has hit her family pretty hard, and they lost their house. They need a place to stay. She called me about moving in with me. She wants me to move my kids into their old rooms so her family can have the basement suite in my house. I told her no. I wasn't going to uproot my kids from their area to accommodate her. I offered to let her have 2 rooms upstairs with me. She said she didn't want that. Only the basement suite would do. I said it wasn't going to happen and left it at that. Her father won't or can't help her out since he lives in a bachelor apartment. Iago lives in another city. Juana said that if her mother were alive, she would make me let her have the basement since it was her house too. I reminded her that I owned the house before I married her mom and that it was 100% mine. Iago has reached out and I made sure he knew the whole story. He knows I offered her 2 rooms for free. He said she was dumb not to take the help. I feel bad about this whole situation, but I'm not going to move my kids out of their space. They are teenagers now, and I am teaching them to take care of themselves. They are also still dealing with losing their mom. I am not super excited about letting someone who dislikes me into our lives, but I'm still willing to help her. I feel like a jerk, but I am not changing my mind. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. The audacity to ask her mom's husband to not only house her and her children, but to displace his children from their rooms. And let's be honest, she doesn't want to take the rooms upstairs because she would constantly be reminded that she is living with OP. Living in the basement suite allows her to pretend he's just a landlord that she can avoid. Juana's entitlement is off the charts. OP, be ready for her to have spread rumors about you making her homeless at Iago's wedding. Comment 2. Send her a text message. I have changed my mind. Wait a minute or more. Send a second message. You're right about your mom too. Send a third message. If she were alive, she would have forced you to have a relationship with your siblings. Since you, as an adult woman, have chosen to pretend you do not have siblings, and since I am just your mother's husband, I decline any invitation to live anywhere in my house, now or ever. Now for the update. Hey everyone, a lot has happened since my last post, and I'm here to give you the update you've been waiting for. After I told Juana no to moving into the basement suite, things got even more heated. She started a campaign against me, telling anyone who would listen that I was the reason she and her kids were going to be homeless. She even went as far as to post about it on social media, painting me as the villain in her sob story. My phone blew up with messages from people I hadn't spoken to in years, asking why I was being so heartless. Meanwhile, Iago's wedding was fast approaching, and the tension was thick. Iago had been trying to mediate between us, but Juana wouldn't budge. She was convinced that I owed her the space, despite the fact that I had offered her a reasonable alternative. In the midst of all this, I discovered something that made my blood boil. Juan, the father who could never be bothered to pay child support, had won a small fortune at a local casino. Instead of offering to help his daughter, he blew through the money on a brand new sports car and a lavish vacation. When Iago confronted him about it, Juan just shrugged it off, saying he deserved to enjoy his winnings. The day of Iago's wedding arrived, and it was as awkward as you can imagine. Juana was there, of course, and she made a point of ignoring me the entire time. I tried to focus on Iago and his fiancée, who looked absolutely stunning. They deserved a perfect day, and I did my best not to let the drama affect their celebration. But then, during the reception, Juana cornered me. She had the audacity to ask me, in front of other guests, if I had reconsidered her moving into the basement. I kept my cool, but firmly told her the offer of the 2 rooms still stood, and that was it. She stormed off, and I could feel the eyes of the other guests on me. The next day, I found out that Juana had taken things a step further. She had gone to my kids' school and spread rumors about me, trying to turn their friends against them. My kids were devastated and confused, and I was furious. How could she drag innocent teenagers into her vendetta? Iago was livid when he heard about what his sister had done. He called her out on it, and they had a massive argument. He told her that she was out of line and that she needed to apologize to me and my kids. Juana refused, saying that we all deserved it for not giving her what she wanted. But here's where karma comes into play, subtly righting the wrongs. The principal of the school, who knew me as an involved parent, didn't buy into Juana's stories. He reached out to me personally to offer support and assured me that the school would not tolerate such behavior from anyone, parent or not. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any crazier, Juan's new sports car was repossessed. Turns out he hadn't paid for it outright, but had taken out a massive loan he couldn't afford. His financial irresponsibility caught up with him, and he was back to square one. As for Juana, her attempts to tarnish my reputation backfired. People started to see through her lies, especially when they learned about the generous offer I had made. Her social media posts were met with comments of support for me, and slowly but surely, her narrative crumbled. Iago and his new wife decided to cut their honeymoon short to deal with the family drama. They both thanked me for my support and for trying to keep the peace during their wedding. Girlfriend cheats with her ex, so I laugh as I leave her behind. She's pregnant now and alone, but I'm too busy loving my new freedom. Went on a vacation with my girlfriend of 5 years down to Tennessee from Michigan on winter break. My girlfriend grew up in Tennessee until her family moved up to Michigan when she was 12. It was a big reason why I had a crush on her when we were teens, because I thought her accent was very cute. She and I both go to the same college, and we met in middle school when I wouldn't stop bugging her in class. We drove down to Tennessee in my car, and we're planning to stay down there from the 2nd to the 7th. We have our classes begin again on the 10th. Anyways, we were having a great time. We visited a bunch of the awesome sites in Tennessee, and she showed me the town her family lived in before she moved. We were staying in a hotel on the 5th, and while she was sleeping, I noticed some guy kept snapping her on Snapchat. I was like, what the frick? Who even is this? And so I took a photo of her arm saying, "Yeah, what's up?" He replied saying he was thinking of her and asking when she was getting back. I messaged him saying the 10th and asked him what he wanted to do when she gets back. He said he had a few ideas and a winky face. I asked him for revealing photos to make sure he was definitely already doing stuff with her. And he sent them almost immediately and asked if he'd be seeing hers. I was so livid and woke her up, freaking the frick out on her. She was shocked and denied at first, but she eventually admitted they were talking, but never hooked up. I told her we were done, and I started crying and freaking out. I told her I was going to sleep in the car so we wouldn't get kicked out for a noise complaint, and I left the room. When I got in my car after a good hour of thinking and ignoring her texts and calls, I decided, frick it, I'm going home. I didn't care about my suitcase or clothes. I just started driving home. I blocked my now ex's number and drove through the night. I woke up the next morning to my ex's mom calling me, freaking out about how I left her halfway across the country and how it didn't matter what she did. It's criminal negligence to leave a girl alone in that state. Well, her parents ended up driving all the way down to get her, and now my ex came up to my house today and told me they were going to try to file a criminal case against me, and if not that, sue me for damages. I don't think I owed her a drive home. It was my car, my gas, and she cheated on me. Can I get in trouble from this? What I've read, it could be possible if I left her in a dangerous situation, but I left her in a hotel. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Haha, there's no law like that. Ha 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 ha. She's an adult. She could use her big girl brain and get an Uber or a flight, or use Uber to rent a car. Respond and say you'll sue for her cheating. It's equally valid as suing for leaving. Not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot, and I say this as a woman. They can't sue you or file charges because you left her somewhere safe. Unless it's her car or she's a minor, there's literally nothing they can do. She shouldn't have been cheating. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a chaotic month since I found out my girlfriend was cheating on me while we were on vacation in Tennessee. I've got some updates that I think you'll find pretty interesting. So, after I left her in the hotel and drove back to Michigan, things got even crazier. Her parents did drive down to get her, and they were furious with me. They tried to make a case for criminal negligence, but it turns out that leaving a cheating girlfriend in a safe hotel room doesn't exactly fit the bill for that. Their lawyer must have told them the same thing, because the threat of a lawsuit vanished as quickly as it appeared. But that's not even the juicy part. Remember the guy she was snapping? Turns out he was her high school sweetheart, Jake. They dated before she moved up to Michigan, and apparently they never really got over each other. I guess they reconnected when she found out we were heading down to Tennessee for the break. She must have been planning to meet up with him behind my back the whole time. Now, here's where it gets even more twisted. Jake's current girlfriend reached out to me on Facebook. Yeah, you read that right. The guy wasn't even single. She messaged me because she saw the photo I took of my ex's arm on his Snapchat story. She was just as blindsided as I was and wanted to know everything. We ended up meeting for coffee, and let me tell you, it was like meeting a comrade in the most messed up battle ever. During our chat, she told me that Jake had been acting distant for weeks, and she had a hunch he was seeing someone else. She never imagined it would be my girlfriend. We compared timelines, and it was clear they had been planning this little reunion for a while. It was a tough conversation, but it felt good to talk to someone who understood the betrayal. But wait, there's more. My ex has been trying to contact me through every possible channel. Social media, mutual friends, you name it. She's been spinning this sob story about how she made a huge mistake and how she wants to fix things between us. I wasn't having any of it, though. I've been ignoring her attempts and focusing on myself. I started hitting the gym more and hanging out with my buddies to keep my mind off things. One of those friends, Alex, has been a huge help. He's been through a rough breakup before, so he gets it. Plus, he's always been the kind of guy who can make you laugh no matter how bad things are. We've been spending a lot of time together, and it's been great for getting over my ex. Now, here's the kicker. Last week, I ran into my ex at the grocery store. It was the first time we'd seen each other since Tennessee. She tried to talk to me, but I kept it short and walked away. I thought that was the end of it, but when I got home, I found a letter from her in my mailbox. She wrote about how sorry she was, how she missed me, and how she wanted to explain everything in person. I was about to toss the letter when something caught my eye. She mentioned that there was something important she hadn't told me about her and Jake. Curiosity got the better of me, and I agreed to meet her. We met at a park, and she dropped a bombshell. She's pregnant, and she's pretty sure Jake is the father. She was in tears, telling me she didn't know what to do and that she felt so alone. I was in shock. I knew they had been talking, but I didn't realize it had gone that far. But here's the real twist. She doesn't want to be with Jake. She claims she realized too late that he wasn't the one she wanted. She said she missed what we had and that she wished she could take it all back. I didn't know what to say. This was a whole new level of complicated. I told her I needed time to think and that I couldn't make any promises. I'm still processing everything. It's a lot to take in, and I'm not sure where to go from here. I've been talking to Alex about it, and he's been a rock, telling me to take my time and do what's best for me. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.